Welcome to Random Scriptures 7? Either 7 or 8. I read from the ISR, the Institute for Scripture Research, because it takes a direct translation from Hebrew to English, Greek to English, and Aramaic to English. Yah is the Elohim of the heavens and the earth, the first and the last and the only, and he's an extremely jealous El. He's so jealous that he doesn't even want the names of idols or mighty ones to come to our lips. And Yah is short for Yahweh, Yahweh, Yod He Vav He. It's short for, it's like saying Dan, Daniel, Daniel with an E. What is the difference and does matters when people say that Phil, Bob, Sam, and Aaron are the same name when no they're not, and no one in their right mind would ever believe that. And only a fool would believe that a hammer could force its creator to do anything, and there was no letter J in the Hebrew, Greek, or Aramaic text because the letter J is only about 600 years old, while the son of Elohim, Yahoshua Messiah, died on a stake for the sins of all of humanity over 2,000 years ago. And a direct translation from Hebrew to English, Yahoshua is Joshua, and I strongly believe that the son of Elohim's name, Yahoshua, means Yahweh is salvation. HalleluYah means praise to Yah. I think okay, so I'm starting book 6, which is Joshua 20, and Joshua 23 is what I'm going to read. So Joshua 20, and Yahweh spoke to Yahoshua, Yehoshua, which is Joshua, saying, speak to the children of Israel, Yisra apostrophe E with a half a check mark L, saying, appoint for yourselves cities of refuge, of which I spoke to you through Moshe, Mosheh, which is Moses, for the manslayer who strikes any being mistakenly, unknowingly, to flee there, and they shall be your refuge from the Redeemer of blood. And he shall flee to one of those cities and stand at the entrance of the gate of the city and declare his case in the hearing of the elders of that city, and they shall take him into the city as one of them and give him a place, and he shall dwell among them. And when the Redeemer of blood pursues him, they do not give the manslayer into his hand, because he struck his neighbor unknowingly and did not hate him beforehand. And he shall dwell in that city until he stands before the congregation for right ruling, and until the death of the one who is high priest in those days. Then let the manslayer return and come to his own city and his own house, to the city from which he fled. So they set apart Qadesh, Qed with a line underneath of it, Esh, in Galil, Galil, in the mountains of Naphtali, Naphtali, and Shechem, Shek with a line underneath of it, Em, in the mountains of Ephraim, Ephraim, and Quiriath Arba, Qiryath, and then Arba is Arba. That is Hebron, H with a dot, EB with a line underneath of it, RON, in the mountains of Yehuda, Yehud with a line underneath of it, AH, and beyond the Yarden, Yarde with a half a check mark, N, by Jericho, which is Jericho, Yerih with a dot O, eastward. They appointed Betzer, Betser, in the wilderness of the plain, from the tribe of Reuben, RE apostrophe UB with a line underneath of it, E with a half a check mark, N, and Ramoth, Ramoth, in Gilad, GIL apostrophe AD with a line underneath of it, from the tribe of God, GAD with a line underneath of it, and Golan, Golan, in Bashan, Bashan, from the tribe of Manasseh, Menasheh, These were the cities appointed for all the children of Israel, and for the sojourner who sojourned in their midst, for anyone striking any being unknowingly to flee there, and not die by the hand of the Redeemer of blood until he stood before the congregation. Amen to that. Joshua 23. And it came to be a long time after Yahweh had given rest to Israel from all their enemies around about, that Yahoshua was old, advanced in years, and Yahoshua called for all Israel, and for their elders, and for their heads, and for their judges, and for their officers, and said to them, I am old, advanced in years, and you have seen all that Yahweh your Elohim has done to all these nations because of you, for Yahweh your Elohim is he who was fighting for you. See, I have divided to you by lot these nations that remain to be an inheritance for your tribes from the Jordan with all the nations that I have cut off as far as the great sea toward the setting of the sun, as Yahweh your Elohim thrust them out from before you, and shall drive them out from before you, and you shall possess their land as Yahweh your Elohim has promised you, and you shall be very strong to guard and to do all that is written in the book of the Torah of Moshe, so as not to turn aside from right or left, so as to not go in among these nations, these who remain among you, and make no mention of the name of their mighty ones, nor swear by them, fancy English, by them, nor serve them, nor bow down to them, but cling to Yahweh your Elohim, as you have done to this day. For Yahweh has driven out from before you great and strong nations. As for you, no one has stood against you to this day. One man of you put 1,000 to flight, for Yahweh your Elohim is he who is fighting for you, as he has promised you, and you shall diligently guard yourselves to love Yahweh your Elohim. But if you do not turn back at all and cling to the remnant of these nations, these that remain among you, that intermarry with them and go into them, and they to you, know for certain that Yahweh your Elohim shall no longer drive these nations out from before you, and they shall be snares and traps to you, and a whip on your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from this good land which Yahweh your Elohim has given you. And see, this day I am going the way of all the earth, and you know in all your hearts and in all your beings that not one word has failed of all the good words which Yahweh your Elohim spoke concerning you. All of it has come to you, and not one word of them has failed. And it shall be as every good word has come upon you, which Yahweh your Elohim promised you, so Yahweh does bring upon you every evil word, until he has destroyed you from this good land which Yahweh your Elohim has given you, when you transgress the covenant of Yahweh your Elohim which he commanded you, and shall go and serve other mighty ones and bow down to them, and the displeasure of Yahweh shall burn against you, and you shall perish quickly from the good land which he has given you. Well, that happened. That most certainly happened. Mawoo. 14th book. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ezekiel 5:28. Mawoo. Ezekiel 5:28. Ezekiel 2. And he said to me, Son of man, stand on your feet so that I speak to you. And the Spirit entered into me when he spoke to me, and set me on my feet, and I heard him who was speaking to me, and he said to me, Son of man, I am sending you to the children of Israel, to a nation of rebels who have rebelled against me, talking about Yahweh. They and their fathers have transgressed against me until this day, and the children are stiff of face and hard of heart, to whom I am sending you. And you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh, and they, whether they hear or whether they refuse, for they are a rebellious house, shall know that a prophet has been in their midst. And you, son of man, do not be afraid of them, nor be afraid of their words, though thistles and thorns are with you, and you dwell among scorpions. Do not be afraid of their words, or discouraged by their hooks, for they are a rebellious house, and you shall speak my words to them, whether they hear or whether they refuse, for they are rebellious. And you, son of man, hear what I am speaking to you. Do not be rebellious like that rebellious house. Open your mouth and eat what I am giving you. And I looked and saw a hand stretched out to me, and see a scroll of a book was in it, and he spread it before me, and it was written on the inside and on the outside, and written on it were lamentations and mourning and woe. Sorry about that. Come on, big guy. Come on. Yeah, ooh. Oh, that smell is so good. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna readjust. Ezekiel 3. And he said to me, Son of man, eat what you find, eat this scroll and go, speak to the house of Israel, and open my mouth, and he fed me the scroll. And I opened my mouth, and he fed me the scroll, and he said to me, Son of man, feed your stomach, and fill your stomach with this scroll that I am giving you. And I ate it, and it was sweet as honey into my mouth. And he said to me, Son of man, go to the house of Israel, and you shall speak to them with my words, for you are not sent to a people of foreign speech and of difficult language, but of the house of Israel, not too many people of foreign speech and of difficult language. Those words you do not understand. If I had rather sent you to them, they would have listened to you, but the house of Israel is going to refuse to listen to you, for they refuse to listen to me. For all the house of Israel hard of head and hard of heart, see, I shall make your face as hard as their faces, and your forehead as hard as their foreheads, like adamant stone, harder than flint. I shall make your forehead. Do not be afraid of them, nor be discouraged at their looks, for they are a rebellious house. And he said to me, Son of man, receive into your heart all my words that I speak to you, and hear with your ears, and go, come to the exiles, to the children of your people, and speak to them, and say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh, whether they hear or whether they refuse. And the Spirit lifted me up, and behind me I heard the sound of a great rumbling voice, fancy English voice. Blessed be the esteem of Yahweh from his place, and the sound of the wings of the living creatures touching one another, and the sound of the wheels beside them, and the sound of a great rushing. And the Spirit lifted me and took me away, and I went in bitterness in the heat of my spirit, while the hand of Yahweh was strong upon me. And I came to the exiles of Tel Aviv. Could that be Tel Aviv? Like Iran? Tel, T-E with a half a check mark, L, and then Abib is A-B with a line underneath of it, I-B with a line underneath of it, who were dwelling by the river Kabar, and then Kabar is K-E-B with a line underneath of it, A-R, and I sat where they were sitting, and sat there stunned among them 7 days. And it came to be at the end of 7 days that the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, I have made you watching over the Oh, sorry. Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel, and you shall hear a word from my mouth, and shall warn them from me. When I say to you the wrong, you shall certainly die, and you have not warned him, nor spoken to warn the wrong from his way, to save his life. That same wrong man shall die in his crookedness, and his blood I require at your hand. If you have warned the wrong, and he does not turn from his wrong, nor from his wrong way, he shall die in his crookedness, and you have delivered your being. And when a righteous one turns from his righteousness, and shall do unrighteousness, when I have put a stumbling block before him, he shall die because you did not warn him. He shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he has done is not remembered, and his blood I require at your hand. But if you have warned the righteous one that the righteous should not sin, and he did not sin, he shall certainly live because he has been warned, and you have delivered your being. And the hand of Yahweh came upon me there, and he said to me, Arise, go out into the plain, so that I might speak to you there. So I go up and went out into the plain, and see, the esteem of Yahweh stood there like the esteem which I saw by the river Kabar, and I fell on my face, and the Spirit entered me and set me on my feet, and spoke with me and said to me, Go, shut yourself inside your house, and you, O son of man, see, they shall put cords on you and bind you with them, so that you do not go out in their midst. And I make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth, so that you shall be dumb and not be a reprover to them, for they are a rebellious house. But when I speak with you, I open your mouth, and you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh, He who hears, let him hear, and he who refuses, let him refuse, for they are a rebellious house. Which brings me to that one part where Yahweh, Yahoshua both say to just kick the dust off your feet and move on. Let evil be evil, choose to do good, Don't just don't just do evil, It's bad. Do good. And everyone who refuses to do good, whatever, let them do them. That's their own choice. Obadiah 19. Book 19 is Obadiah. That's pretty cool. 6:17. Obadiah is a single one. So yeah, the book of Obadiah is what we're going to read. Obadiah in English, by the way, is Obadiah, and in Hebrew, Obadiah is O-B with a line underneath of it, A-D with a line underneath of it, Y-A-H, because he's a prophet, Yah. Obadiah, giving praise to Yah. All the prophet names and people who are important who had names like that, their names were literally giving praise to Yah. So one, there's only one. The vision of Obadiah. This is what the Master Yahweh said concerning Edom, ED with a line underneath of it, OM. We have heard a report from Yahweh, and a messenger has been sent among the nations, saying, Arise, and let us rise up against her for battle. See, I have made you small among the nations. You are greatly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, you who dwell in the clefts of the rock, whose dwelling is high, who say in your heart, Who shall bring me down to the ground? Though you rise high, and the eagle of high as the eagle, and though you set your nest among the stars, from there I shall bring you down, declares Yahweh. If thieves came to you, if robbers by night, how ruined you would have been. Would they not steal till they had enough? If grape gatherers had come to you, would they not leave gleanings? How Esau, E with a half a check mark, SAW, saw how Esau shall be searched out, his hidden treasures shall be sought out. All your allies shall send you forth to the border, your friends shall deceive you and overpower you. They make your bread a snare under you without you discerning it. In that day, declares Yahweh, I shall destroy the wise men from Edom and discernment from the mountains of Esau, and your mighty men shall be discouraged, O Teman, Te with a half a check mark, MAN, so that everyone from the mountains of Esau is cut off by killing because of your violence against your brother Jacob, YA apostrophe AQOB with a line underneath of it. Let shame cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. In the day that you stood on the other side, in the day that strangers took captive his wealth, when foreigners entered his gates and cast lots of Jerusalem, which is Jerusalem, YERUSHALAYIM, you also were like one of them, and you should not have looked on your brother's day in the day of his estrangement, nor rejoiced over the children of Yehuda, YEHUD with a line underneath of it, AH, in the day of their destruction, nor made your mouth great in the day of distress, nor have entered the gate of my people in the day of their calamity, nor looked down on their evil in the day of their calamity, nor have seized their wealth in the day of their calamity, nor have stood at the parting of the way to cut off his fugitives, nor handed over his survivors in the day of distress. For the day of Yahweh is near upon all the nations. As you have done, it shall be done to you. Your reward shall come back on your own head. For as you have drunk on my set apart mountain, so do all the nations drink continually, and they shall drink and shall swallow, and they shall be as though they had never been. But on Mount Sion, Sion, they shall be, and there shall be an escape, and they shall be set apart, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph, YOSE with a half a check mark, YOSE with a half a check mark, PH a flame, but the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall burn among them, and they shall consume them, so that no survivor is left of the house of Esau, for Yahweh has spoken. And they shall possess the south with the mountains of Esau, and low country with the Philistines, PHILISTINES, and they shall possess the fields of Ephraim and the fields of Shomeron, SHOMERON, and Benjamin, BINYAMIN, with Gilad, GIL apostrophe AD with a line underneath of it. And the exiles of the host of the children of Israel possess, fancy English, possessed that of the Canaanites, KENA apostrophe ANITES, as far as Sarephath, TSAREPHATH, and the exiles of Jerusalem who are in Sepharad, SEPHARAD with a line underneath of it, possess the cities of the south. And saviors shall come to Mount Sion to judge the mountains of Esau, and the reign shall belong to Yahweh. Amen to that. The next one is 9. ninth book. 2 Samuel, page 316. Your book might be totally different, but... Second Samuel 18. And David, D-A-W-I-D with a line underneath of it, which is David, by the way, mustered the people who were with him and set commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds over them. And David sent out 1/3 of the people under the hand of Job, Y-O-A-B with a line underneath of it, and 1/3 under the hand of Abishai, A-B with a line underneath of it, I-S-H-A-I, son of Seruiah, T-S-E-R-U-Y-A-H, Job's brother, and 1/3 under the hand of Yittai, I-T-T-A-I, the Gittite, G-I-T-T-I-T-E. And the sovereign said to the people, I shall certainly go out with you too. But the people answered, do not go out, for if we flee away, they would not set heart upon us. Even if half of us die, they would not set heart upon us, for now 10,000 are like us. Therefore it is better for you to support us from the city. And the sovereign said to them, that which is good in your eyes I do. And the sovereign stood beside the gate, and all the people went out by hundreds and by thousands. And the sovereign ordered Job and Abishai and Ittai, saying, be gentle with the young man Absalom, A-B with a line underneath of it, S-H-A-L-O-M, for my sake. And all the people heard when the sovereign gave all the commanders orders concerning Absalom. For the people went out into the field to meet Israel, and the battle was in the forest of Ephraim. And the people of Israel were smitten there before the servants of David, and the slaughter there that day was great, 20,000, and the battle there was scattered over the face of all the land, and the forest devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. The forest devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. And when Absalom met the servants of David, Absalom was riding on a mule, and the mule went under the thick branches of a great terebinth tree, and his head caught hold in the terebinth, and he was suspended between the heavens and earth, while the mule which was under him passed on. And a certain man saw it, and informed Job, and said, look, I saw Absalom hanging in a terebinth tree. And Job said to the man who informed him, now look, you saw, and why did you not strike him to the earth there? Then I would have given you 10 pieces of silver and a belt. Then the man answered Job, though I were to receive 1,000 pieces of silver in my hand, I would not raise my hand against the son of the sovereign, because in our hearing the sovereign commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, saying, take heed, you who go against the youth, against Absalom. Otherwise I would have been untrue to my own life, for no matter is hidden from the sovereign, and you yourself would have set yourself against me. And Job said, let me not waste time here with you. And he took 3 spears in his hand and thrust them through Absalom's heart while he was still alive in the midst of the terebinth tree. And 10 young men who bore Job's armor went around and struck Absalom and put him to death. And Job blew with the shofar, and the people returned from pursuing Israel. And Job had held the people back, and they took Absalom and threw him into a large pit in the forest, and heaped a very large pile of stones over him. And all Israel fled, each one to his tent. And Absalom in his lifetime had taken and set up a monument for himself, which is in the sovereign's valley. For he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance, and he called the mountain after his own name, and to this day it is called Absalom's monument. Absalom's monument. A-B with a line underneath of it, Shalom, and then monument. Absalom's monument. And Ahimates, Ahimates is A-H with a dot, I-M-A apostrophe A-T-S, son of Sadok, T-S-A-D with a line underneath of it, O-Q, said, please let me run and take the news to the sovereign, for Yahweh has avenged him to his enemies. But Job said to him, you are not the man to take the news today, but you shall take the news another day. But today you do not take the news, because the sovereign's son is dead. And Job said to the Cushite, Kushite, go inform the sovereign what you have seen. And the Cushite bowed himself to Job and ran. And Ahimates, son of Sadak, said again to Job, and whatever might be, please let me also run after the Cushite. And Job said, why would you run, my son? There is no news to bring you reward. And whatever might be, he said, fancy this, he said, let me run. So he said to him, run. And Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and passed the Cushite. Now David was sitting between the two gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate to the wall, and lifted his eyes and looked and saw a man running alone. So the watchman called out and told the sovereign, and the sovereign said, if he is alone, there is news in his mouth. And he came nearer and nearer, and the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called out to the gatekeeper, saying, see, a man running by himself. And the sovereign said, this one is also bringing news. And the watchman said, I see the running of the first is like the running of Ahimaaz, son of Sadak. And the sovereign said, this is a good man, and he comes with good news. And Ahimaaz called out and said to the sovereign, peace. Then he bowed down with his face to the earth before the sovereign and said, blessed be Yahweh your Elohim, who has surrendered the men who raised their hand against my master the sovereign. And the sovereign said, peace to the young man, to Absalom. And Ahimaaz answered, then when Job sent the sovereign's servant to me, your servant, I saw a great crowd, but I did not know why. And the sovereign said, turn aside and stand here. And he turned aside and stood still. And see, the Cushite came, and the Cushite said, receive news, my master the sovereign, for Yahweh has avenged you this day of all those who rose against you. And the sovereign said to the Cushite, peace to the young man, to Absalom. And the Cushite answered, let the enemies of my master the sovereign, and all who rise against you for evil, be as that young man is. And the sovereign was shaken, and went up to the room over the gate, and wept. And as he wept, he said this, O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you, O Absalom, Absalom, my son, my son. Interesting. The next book is 24. Zephaniah. Took me a while. The shadow of my finger was messing with me. Zephaniah, page 630. So Zechariah, or sorry, not Zechariah, Zephaniah. Excuse me. Zephaniah 2. Gather together, O nation, without shame. Before the law gives birth, the day shall pass on like chaff. Before the burning wrath of Yahweh comes upon you, before the day of wrath of Yahweh comes upon you, seek Yahweh, all you meek ones of the earth who have done his right ruling. Seek righteousness, seek meekness, if so be that you are hidden in the day of wrath of Yahweh. For Azza, Azzah, is abandoned, and Ashkelon, Ashqelon, laid waste. Ashdod, Ashdod, with a line underneath of it, is driven out at noonday, and Ekron, Eqron, is uprooted. Woe to the inhabitants of the seacoast, the nation of the Kerethites. Kere, with a half a check mark, Thites. The word of Yahweh is against you, O Canaan. Kena, land of the Philistines. And I shall destroy you, so that there is no inhabitant, and the seacoast shall be pastures, shepherds' meadows, and enclosures for flocks, and the coast shall be for the remnant of the house of Yehudah. They shall feed their flocks on it at evening. They lie down in the houses of Ashkelon, for their Yahweh Elohim shall visit them and turn back their captivity. I have heard the reproach of Moab, Mo'Ab, with a line underneath of it, and the revilings of the children of Ammon, Ammon, with which they have reproached my people and exalted themselves against their borders. Therefore, as I live, declares Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, Moab shall be like Sodom, Sed, with a line underneath of it, Om, and the children of Ammon like Amorah, Amorah, a possession for weeds, and a pit of salt, and a waste forever. The remnant of my people plunder them, and the rest of my nation possess them. This is what they get for their pride, because they have reproached and exalted themselves against the people of Yahweh of hosts. Yahweh shall be awesome to them, for he shall make all the mighty ones of the earth to shrivel, while all the coastlands of the nations bow down to him, each one from his place. You too, O Cushites, are to be slain by my sword. And he shall stretch out his hand against the north and destroy Ashur, Ashshur, and make Nineveh, Ninewe, with a half a check mark, a waste as dry as a wilderness. And droves shall lie down in her midst, every beast of the nation, both pelican and bittern lodge, Bittern lodge, in the tops of her columns, a voice singing at the window. Ruin be at the threshold, for the cedar work is exposed. This is the exultant city that is dwelling in safety, that said in her heart, I am it, and there is none but me. How has she become a waste, a place of beasts to lie down? Everyone who passes by her whistles and shakes his fist. Zephaniah 3. Woe to her who is rebellious and defiled the oppressing city. She did not obey the voice. She did not accept instruction. She did not trust in Yahweh. She did not draw near to her Elohim. Her rulers in her midst are roaring lions. Her judges are evening wolves. They shall leave no bone until morning. Her prophets are reckless, treacherous men. Her priests are profaned. The set apart place, they have done violence to the Torah. To Yah's Torah. Talking about the Pharisees and the Sadducees by the sounds of it, and everyone else who followed them, instead of actually sticking to what Yahweh's Torah is. Yahweh is righteous in her midst. He does no unrighteousness. Morning by morning he brings his right ruling to light. It has not been lacking, yet the unrighteous one knows no shame. I have cut off nations, their corner towers are in ruins. I have made their streets deserted with no one passing by. Their cities are destroyed without man, without inhabitant. I have said, only fear me, accept instruction, and her dwelling would not be cut off. All that I have appointed for her, but they rose up early, they corrupted all their deeds. Therefore wait for me, declares Yahweh, until the day I rise up for plunder, for my judgment is to gather nations, to assemble reigns, to pour out on them my rage, all my burning wrath, for by the fire of my jealousy all the earth shall be consumed. Very jealous, El. Very jealous, El. For then I shall turn into the peoples a clean lip or language, so that they all call on my for then I shall turn unto the peoples a clean lip or language, so that they all call on the name of Yahweh to serve him with one shoulder. From beyond the rivers of Cush, Kush, my worshippers, the daughters of my dispersed ones, shall bring my offering. In that day you shall not be put to shame for any of your deeds in which you have transgressed against me. For then I shall remove from your midst your proud exalting ones, and you shall no more be haughty in my set apart mountain. But I shall leave in your midst an oppressed and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of Yahweh. The remnant of Israel shall do no unrighteousness and speak no falsehood, nor is a tongue of deceit found in their mouth, for they shall feed their flocks and lie down with none to frighten them. Shout for joy, O daughter of Sion, Tsion. Shout, O Israel, be glad and rejoice with all your heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. Yahweh has turned aside your judgments. He has faced your enemy. The sovereign of Israel, Yahweh, is in your midst. No longer need you fear evil. In that day it shall be said to Jerusalem, do not fear Sion. Do not let your hands be weak. Yahweh your Elohim in your midst is mighty to save. He rejoices over you with joy. He is silent in his love. He rejoices over you with singing. I shall gather those who grieve about the appointed time, who are among you, to whom its reproach is a burden. See, I am dealing with all those afflicting you at that time. I shall save the lame and gather those who cast out, and I shall give them for a praise and for a name in all the earth where they were put to shame. At that time I shall bring you in. Even at that time I gather you, for I shall give you for a name and for a praise among all the peoples of the earth, when I turn back your captivity before your eyes, said Yahweh. Somebody let this beast back in. Come on. You want in? got something. He's playing with something on the door. I thought he was scratching. It's like, it beats scratching if I let you in. 17. Like book 17. Joel 608. Take your choice on one of them. There you go. I love you. Alright. So I'm thinking we'll do Joel 2 and Joel 3. So Joel 2. Blow a shofar in Sion and sound an alarm in my set apart mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the earth tremble, for the day of Yahweh is coming, for it is near, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness, like the morning clouds spread over the mountains, a people many and strong, the like of whom has never been, nor shall ever be again after them, to the years of many generations. Ahead of them a fire has consumed, and behind them a fire burns. Before them the land is like the Garden of Eden. E with a half a check mark, D with a line underneath of it, E-N. And behind them a desert waste, and from them there is no escape. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses, and they run like steeds. As the noise of chariots, they leap over mountain tops, and as the noise of a flaming fire consuming stubble, as a mighty people set in battle array. Before them peoples are in anguish, all faces become flushed, they run like mighty men, they climb the wall like men of battle, everyone goes on his way, and they do not break ranks, and they do not press one another, everyone goes in his path, they fall among the weapons, but they do not stop, they rush on the city, they run on the wall, they climb into the houses, they enter at the windows like a thief. The earth shall tremble before them, the heavens shall shake, sun and moon shall be darkened, and the stars withdraw their brightness, and Yahweh shall give forth his voice before his army, for his camp is very great, for mighty is the doer of his word, for the day of Yahweh is great and very awesome, and who does bear it? Yet even now, declares Yahweh, turn to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning, and tear your heart and not your garments, and turn back to Yahweh your Elohim, for he knows favor, and is compassionate, patient, and of great loving commitment, and he shall relent concerning the evil. Who knows, he might turn and relent and leave a blessing behind him, a grain offering and a drink offering for Yahweh your Elohim. Question mark. Before blow a shofar in Sion, be set apart. Blow a shofar in Sion. Blow a shofar in Sion. Set apart a fast. Call an assembly. Gather the people. Set the assembly apart. Assemble the elders. Gather the children and nursing babes. Let a bridegroom come out from his room, and a bride from her dressing room. Let the priests, servants of Yahweh, weep between the porch and the slaughter place, and let them say, spare your people, O Yahweh, and do not give your inheritance to reproach, for the nations to rule over them. Why should they say among the peoples, where is their Elohim? And let Yahweh be jealous for his land and spare his people, And let Yahweh answer and say to his people, see, I am sending you the grain and the new wine and the oil, and you shall be satisfied by them. And no longer do I make you a reproach among the nations. And the northerner I shall remove far from you, and drive him away into a dry and deserted land, with his face toward the eastern sea, and his rear toward the western sea. And his stench shall come up, and his smell rise, for he has done greatly. Do not fear, O soil, be glad and rejoice, for Yahweh has done greatly. Do not fear, you beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness shall bring forth, and the tree shall bear its fruit. The fig tree and the vine shall yield their strength. And the children of Zion, be glad and rejoice in Yahweh your Elohim, for he shall give you the teacher of righteousness. This is talking about Yahoshua Messiah, the teacher of righteousness, capital T, capital R, and cause the rain to come down for you, the former rain and the later rain as before, and the threshing floors shall be filled with grain, and the vats shall overflow with new wine and oil, and I shall repay you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the crawling locust and the consuming locust and the gnawing locust, my great army which I sent among you. Then you shall eat and be satisfied, and shall praise the name of Yahweh your Elohim, who has done with you so wondrously, and my people shall never be put to shame. And you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and I am Yahweh your Elohim, and there is no one else, and my people shall never be put to shame. And after this it shall be that I pour out my spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men dream dreams, and your old men dream dreams. Your young men see visions, and also on the male servants and on the female servants I shall pour out my spirit in those days, and I shall give signs in the heavens and upon the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. The sun is turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and awesome day of Yahweh. And it shall be that everyone who calls on the name of Yahweh shall be delivered. For on Mount Sion and in Jerusalem there shall be an escape, as Yahweh has said, and among the survivors whom Yahweh calls. Joel 3. For look, in those days and at that time, when I turn back the captivity of Yehudah and Jerusalem, then I shall gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yehoshaphat, and I shall enter into judgment with them there for my people, my inheritance, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations. And they have divided up my land, and they have cast lots for my people, and have given a young man for a whore, and sold a girl for wine, and drank it. And also, what are you to me, O Sor, Tsor, and Sidon, Tsid, with the line underneath of it, On, and all the coasts of Philistia, Philistia, are you repaying me? And if you are repaying me, I would swiftly and speedily return your reward on your own head. For you have taken my silver and my gold, and brought my treasures into your temples, and the people of Yehudah and the people of Jerusalem you are sold to the sons of Yahweh, WAN, to remove them far from their borders. See, I am stirring them up out of the place to which you have sold them, and I shall return on your own head what you have done, and shall sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the people of Yehudah, and they shall sell them to the Shebates, SHEB, with a line underneath of it, AITES, to a nation far off, for Yahweh has spoken. Proclaim this among the nations, prepare for battle, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of battle draw near, Let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Hasten and come, all you nations, and gather together all around. O Yahweh, let your mighty men come down here. Let the nations be aroused and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I shall sit to judge all the nations on every side. Put to the sickle, for the harvest has grown ripe. Come, go down, for the winepress is filled. The vats overflow, for their evil is great. Crowds, crowds in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. Sun and moon shall become dark, and stars shall withdraw their brightness, and Yahweh shall roar from Sion and give forth his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and earth shall shake. But Yahweh shall be a refuge for his people and a stronghold for the children of Israel. Then you shall know that I am Yahweh your Elohim, dwelling in Sion, my set apart mountain, and Jerusalem shall be set apart, and strangers shall not pass through her again. And it shall be in that day that the mountains drip with new wine, and the hills flow with milk, and all the streams of Yehudah shall be flooded with water, and a fountain flow from the house of Yahweh, and water from Wadi Shittim. Wadi is Wadi, Shittim is Shittim. Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, Mitsraym, shall become a ruin, and Edom a ruin, a wilderness, because of violence done to the people of Yehudah, whose innocent blood they shed in their land. But Yehudah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem to all generations, and I shall avenge their blood which I have not avenged, and Yahweh shall be dwelling in Sion. Oh, amen to that. The next book is 16, so Hosea 600. Hosea. Oh boy, that's a strong one. Alright, again, Hosea 2. Say to your brothers, O my people, and to your sisters, O compassioned one, strive with your mother, strive, for she is not my wife, nor am I her husband. Let her put away her whorings from her face, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked, and shall set her up as on the day she was born, and shall make her like a wilderness, and shall set her like a dry land, and shall put her to death with thirst, and I shall not have compassion on her children, for they are the children of whorings. For their mother has whored, she has conceived them, has acted shamelessly. For she has said, I go after my lovers, who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my linen, my oil and my drink. Therefore, see, I am hedging up your way with thorns, and I shall wall her in, so that she does not find her paths. And she shall pursue her lovers, but not overtake them, and shall seek them, but not find them. Then she shall say, "Let me go and return to find my first husband, who for then it was better for me than now." And she did not acknowledge that I gave her grain and new wine and oil, and increased her silver and gold, which they prepared for Baal, Ba'al, which Lord is Hebrew for Baal. Therefore I shall turn back, and shall take my grain in its time, and my new wine in its appointed time, and shall take away my wool and my linen covering her nakedness. And now I shall uncover her shame before the eyes of her lovers, and no one shall deliver her from my hand. And I shall cause all her rejoicing, her festivals, her new moons, and her Sabbaths, even all her appointed times, to cease, and lay waste her vines and her fig trees, of which she has said, "These are my harlot fees that my lovers have given me." And I shall make them a forest, and the beasts of the field shall eat them. And I shall punish her for the days of the Baals to which she burned incense, and adorned herself with her rings and jewelry, and went after her lovers, and forgot me, declares Yahweh. Therefore, see, I am alluring her, and shall lead her into the wilderness, and shall speak to her heart, and give to her vineyards from there. And the valley of Achor, 8K with a line underneath of it, OR, as a door of expectation, and there she shall respond as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up from the land of Mitzrayim. And it shall be in that day, declares Yahweh, that you call me my husband, and no longer call me my Baal. So my Lord is what Baal. And I shall remove the names of the Baals from her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by her name. And in that day I shall make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the birds of the heavens, and with the creeping creatures of the ground. When bow and sword and battle I break from the earth, and I shall make them lie down in safety. And I shall take you as a bride unto me forever, and take you as a bride unto me in righteousness, and in right ruling, and loving commitment and compassion. And I shall take you as a bride unto me in trustworthiness, and you shall know Yahweh. And it shall be in that day that I answer, declares Yahweh, that I answer the heavens, and they answer the earth, and the earth answer the grain, and the new wine, and the oil, and they answer Yisrael, Yizre apostrophe E with a half a check mark L. And I shall sow her for myself in the earth, and I shall have compassion on her who had not obtained compassion. And I shall say to those who were not my people, "You are my people," while they say, "My Elohim." Hosea 3. Then Yahweh said to me, "Go again, love a woman loved by a friend, and an adulteress, according to the love of Yahweh, for the children of Israel, though they are turning to other mighty ones, and love their raisin cakes." So I bought her for myself for 15 pieces of silver, and one half homers, H with a dot, OMERS, of barley, homers of barley. Lethek, Lethek, with a line underneath of it, is half a homer in Hebrew. Interesting. So a homer and a lethek, and one half homers of barley. And I said to her, "You are to remain with me many days. You are not to whore, nor become any man's, and so I shall also be towards you. For many days the children of Israel are to remain without sovereign, and without prince, and without slaughtering, and without pillar, and without shoulder garment, or house idols. Afterward the children of Israel shall return and seek Yahweh their Elohim, and David their sovereign and fear Yahweh and His goodness in the later days. The later days, aka the end times, or maybe the end times after the end times, the end times heading towards the end times of the end times. Now I'm just trying to confuse you. So forgive me for that. Book 4. I believe that's Dutes. Is that Dutes or am I? I'm wrong, aren't I? Yes, I am. It's Numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Numbers 137. Oh yeah, that's way too far. Numbers 137. Yeah, sure. Numbers 28. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, Mosheh, which is Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, Take heed to bring my offering, my food, for my offerings made by fire as a sweet fragrance to me at their appointed time. And you shall say to them, This is the offering made by fire which you bring to Yahweh, 2 male lambs, a year old, perfect ones, daily, a continual ascending offering. Could you imagine having to do that now? Like right now, we would all not ever make it. No one would ever make it. Oh, what's the excuse? Oh, I can't do it. Oh, you're past. No. This is why Yahoshua had to die on a stake and be resurrected for our sins. Become the ultimate blood sacrifice because it wouldn't be doable. And Yah is a loving Yah. He didn't want just specific few rich people to make it. That's ridiculous. Works only is a joke. Just as bad as a joke as greasy grace. They're in the same boat. You must do both. Anyways. A continual ascending offering. The one lamb you prepared in the morning, and the other you prepared between the evenings, with 1/10 of an ephah, E with a half a check mark, PHAH, of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with 1/4 of a hin, HIN, of pressed oil, a continual ascending offering which was offered at Mount Sinai, SINAI, for a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahweh, and its drink offering 1/4 of a hin for each lamb. I have a video on measurements of these exact measurements, so if you want to know what these are, you can look that up. 1/4 of a hin for each lamb. Pour out the drink to Yahweh as an offering in the east set apart, as an offering in the set apart place, and the other lamb you prepare between the evenings as the morning grain offering, and its drink offering you prepare it as an offering made by fire, an offering made by fire, a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. And on the Sabbath day 2 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and 2/10 of an ephah, fancy English, of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil, with its drink offering, the ascending offering for every Sabbath, besides the continual ascending offering with its drink offering. And on the beginnings of your new moons, fancy English moons, you bring near an ascending offering to Yahweh, 2 young bulls and 1 ram, and 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, 3/10 of an ephah, fancy English, of an ephah, of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil for each bull, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil for the 1 ram, and 1/10 of an ephah, fancy English, of fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering for each lamb, as an ascending offering of sweet fragrance an offering made by fire to Yahweh, and their drink offering is half a hin of wine for a bull, and 1/3 of a hin for a ram, and 1/4 of a hin for a lamb. This is the ascending offering for each new moon, fancy English moon, through the new moons, fancy English moons of the year. And one male goat as a sin offering to Yahweh is prepared besides the continual ascending offering and its drink offering. And in the first new moon, fancy English on new moon, fancy English moon, on the 14th day is the Pesah, P-E with a half a check mark, S-A-H with a dot, which is Passover of Yahweh. And on the 15th day of this new moon, fancy English moon, is a festival. For 7 days unleavened bread is eaten. On the first day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work, and you shall bring near an offering made by fire as an ascending offering to Yahweh, 2 young bulls and 1 ram, and 7 lambs a year old, perfect ones they are for you, and their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil. Prepare 3/10 of an ephah, fancy English, of an ephah for a bull, and 2/10 of a ram. Prepare 1/10 of an ephah, fancy English, of an ephah for each of the 7 lambs, and 1 goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. Prepare these besides the ascending offering of the morning, which is for a continual ascending offering. According to these, you are to prepare the food of the offering made by fire daily for 7 days as a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. It is prepared besides the continual ascending offering and its drink offering. And on the 7th day, you have a set apart gathering. You do no servile work. And on the day of the first fruits, when you bring a new grain offering to Yahweh, at your festival of Shabbut, S-H-A-B with a line underneath of it, U''O''T, festival of weeks, Shabbut. You have a set apart gathering. You do no servile work, and you shall bring near an ascending offering as a sweet fragrance to Yahweh, 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 lambs a year old, with their grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah, fancy English, of an ephah for each bull, 2/10 for the 1 ram, 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs, 1 male goat to make atonement for you, perfect ones they are for you. Prepare them with their drink offerings, besides the continual ascending offering with its grain offering. Amen to that. 5 is the next one, so that's Deuteronomy. Dutes. Deuteronomy 4 and Deuteronomy 5. Deuteronomy 4. And now, O Israel, listen to the laws and the right rulings which I am teaching you to do, so that you live and shall go in and possess the land which Yahweh Elohim of your fathers has given you. Do not add to the word which I am commanding you, and do not take away from it, so as to guard the commands of Yahweh your Elohim which I am commanding you. He's talking about the Torah. Do not add to the Torah. Your eyes have seen what Yahweh did at Baal Peor, so Lord Peor, P-E apostrophe O-R, for Yahweh your Elohim has destroyed from your midst all the men who followed Baal Peor, so Lord Peor. But you who are clinging to Yahweh your Elohim are alive today, every one of you. See, I have taught you laws and right rulings, as Yahweh your Elohim commanded me to do thus in the land which you go to possess, and you shall guard and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the peoples who hear all these laws, and they shall say, only a wise and understanding people is this great nation. For what great nation is there which has Elohim so near to it as Yahweh our Elohim is to us whenever we call on him. And what great nation is there that has such laws and righteous right rulings like all this Torah which I set before you this day? Only guard yourself and guard your life diligently, lest you forget the words your eyes have seen, and lest they turn aside from your heart all the days of your life. And you shall make them known to your children and your grandchildren the day when you stood before Yahweh your Elohim in Horeb. H with a dot, O-R-E with a half a check mark, B with a line underneath of it. Yahweh said to me, assemble the people to me, and I make them hear my words, so that they learn to fear me all the days they live on the earth, and teach them, fancy English, them to their children, teaching the Torah to their children. And you came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire to the heart of the heavens, darkness, cloud, and thick darkness. And Yahweh spoke to you out of the midst of the fire. You heard the voice of words, but saw no form. You only heard a voice. And he made known to you his covenant, which he commanded you to do, the 10 words, and he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. And Yahweh commanded me at that time to teach the laws and right rulings for you to do them in the land which you pass over to possess. Therefore diligently guard yourselves, for you saw no form when Yahweh spoke to you at Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest you should do corruptly, and shall make for yourselves a carved image in the form of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, or the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the heavens, the likeness of any creature, fancy English, creature that creeps on the ground, or the likeness of any fish that is in the water, under the earth. And lest you lift up your eyes to the heavens, and shall see the sun and the moon and the stars, all the host of the heavens, and you be drawn away into bowing down to them and serving them, which Yahweh your Elohim has allotted to all the peoples under all the heavens. But Yahweh has taken you and brought you out of the iron furnace, out of Mitzrayim, to be his people, an inheritance, as it is today. And Yahweh was enraged with me because of your words, and swore that I would not pass over the Jordan, and that I would not enter the good land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance. For I am to die in this land. I am not passing over the Jordan, but you are passing over and shall possess the good land. Guard yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of Yahweh your Elohim, which he made with you, and shall make for yourselves a carved image in any. Guard yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of Yahweh your Elohim, which he commanded you, and shall make for yourselves a carved image in any form as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you. In other words, don't do it. For Yahweh your Elohim is a consuming fire, a jealous El, when you bring forth children and grandchildren, and shall grow old in the land, and shall do corruptly, and make a carved image in the form of whatever, and shall do what is evil in the eyes of Yahweh your Elohim to provoke him. I shall call the heavens and earth to witness against you on that day, that you soon completely perish from the land which you pass over the Jordan to possess. You do not prolong your days in it, but are completely destroyed, and Yahweh shall scatter you among the peoples, and you shall be left few in number among the nations where Yahweh drives you. And there you shall serve mighty ones in the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. But from there you shall seek Yahweh your Elohim, and shall find when you search for him with all your heart and with all your being in your distress, when all these words shall come upon you in the later days, when you shall return to Yahweh your Elohim, and shall obey his voice. For Yahweh your Elohim is a compassionate El, E with a half a check mark El. He does not forsake you, nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers which he swore to them. For ask now of the days that are past which were before you since the day that Elohim created man on the earth, and ask from one end of the heavens to the other end of the heavens whether there has been a word as again as great as this, or has been heard like it, as a people heard the voice of Elohim speaking out of the midst of the fire, as you have heard and lived. Or has Elohim tried to go and take for himself a nation from the midst of a nation, by trials and by signs and by wonders and by battle and by strong hand and an outstretched arm and by great fearsome deeds, according to all that Yahweh your Elohim did for you in Mitzrayim before your eyes? You have been shown it to know that Yahweh himself is Elohim, there is no one beside him. From the heavens he let you hear his voice to instruct you, and on earth he showed you his great fire, and you heard his words out of the midst of the fire. And because he loved your fathers, therefore he chose their seed after them, and brought you out of Mitzrayim with his presence, with his great power, and to drive out from before you nations greater and stronger than you, to bring you in, to give you their land as an inheritance as it is today. And you shall know today, and shall recall in your heart, that Yahweh himself is Elohim in the heavens above, and on the earth beneath there is none else. And you shall guard his laws and his commands which I command you today, so that it is well with you and with your children after you, so that you prolong the days of the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you for all time. Then Moshe separated 3 cities beyond the Jordan toward the rising of the sun, for a manslayer to flee there, he who unknowingly murdered his neighbor without having hated him in the past, and might flee to one of these cities and live. Betzer, Betser, in the wilderness, in the level land of the Reubenites, RE'(UB) with a line underneath of it, E with a half a check mark, NITES, and Ramoth, RAMOTH, in Gilad, GIL'(AD) with a line underneath of it. For the Gadites, GAD with a line underneath of it, ITES, and Golan, GOLAN, in Bashan, BASHAN. For the Menashites, MENASHSHITES, and this is the Torah which Moshe set before the children of Israel. These are the witnesses and the laws and the right rulings which Moshe spoke to the children of Israel after they came out of Mitzrayim, before the Jordan, in the valley opposite Beth Peor. Beth is BE with a half a check mark, YTH, Peor is PE'(OR), in the land of Sihon, SIH with a dot ON, sovereign of the Amorites, AMORITES, who dwelt at Heshbon, H with a dot ESHBON, whom Moshe and the children of Israel had stricken after they came out of Mitzrayim, and they took possession of his land, and the land of Og, OG with a line on top of it, sovereign of Bashan, 2 sovereigns of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan toward the rising of the sun, from Aroer, ARO'(E) with a half a check mark, R, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon. Wadi Arnon is ARNON, even to Mount Sion, SIYON, which is Hermon, H with a dot ERMON, and all the desert plain beyond the Jordan as far as the sea of the Arabah, ARAB with a line underneath of it, AH, ARAB with a line underneath of it, AH, below the slopes of Pisgah, PISGAH. Deuteronomy 5. And Moshe called all Israel and said to them, Hear, O Israel, the laws and right rulings which I speak in your hearing today, and you shall learn them and guard to do them. Yahweh your Elohim made a covenant with us in Horeb. H with a dot, O-R-E with a half a check mark, B with a line underneath of it. Yahweh did not make this covenant with our fathers, but with us, those who are here today, all of us who are alive. Yahweh spoke with you face to face on the mountain from the midst of the fire. I stood between Yahweh and you at the time to declare to you the word of Yahweh, for you were afraid because of the fire, and you did not go up to the mountain, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You do not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children of the third and fourth generations, fancy English generations, of those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands of those who love me and guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught, N-A-U-G-H-T, which means nothing, ruin, lost. For Yahweh does not leave him unpunished who brings his name to naught. Guard the Sabbath day to set it apart as Yahweh your Elohim commanded you. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath day of Yahweh your Elohim. Sorry, there's a letter. Okay, yeah. Of Yahweh your Elohim, you do not do any work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your sojourner who is within your gates, so that your male servant and your female servant rest as you do. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahweh your Elohim brought you out from there by a strong hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore Yahweh your Elohim commanded you to perform the Sabbath day. Respect your father and your mother, as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, so that your days are prolonged, and so that it is well with you on the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. You do not murder, you do not commit adultery, you do not steal, you do not bear false witness against your neighbor, you do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor do you despise your neighbor's house, his field, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. These words, by the way, your neighbor are the people around you. Anyone who comes around you, anyone afar off, they are your neighbor. These words, commands in the Messianic writings too. Words is very often used as a synonym for command or commands in the Messianic writings too. Words. These words Yahweh spoke to all your assembly in the mountain from the midst of the fire of the cloud and of the thick darkness with a loud voice, and he added no more. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. And it came to be, when he heard the voice from the midst of the darkness, while the mountain was burning with fire, that you came near to me, all the heads of your tribes and your elders, and said, See, Yahweh our Elohim has shown us his esteem and his greatness, and we have heard his voice from the midst of the fire. Today we have seen that Elohim speaks with man, and he lives. And now why should we die? For this great fire is consuming us. If we hear the voice of Yahweh our Elohim any more, then we shall die. For who is there of all flesh who has heard the voice of the living Elohim speaking from the midst of the fire, as we have, and does live? You go near and hear all that Yahweh our Elohim says, and speak to us all that Yahweh our Elohim says to you, and we shall hear and do it. And Yahweh heard the voice of your words when you spoke to me. And Yahweh said to me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people which they have spoken to you. They have done well in all that they have spoken. Oh, that they had such a heart in them to fear me and to guard all my commands always, so that it might be well with them and with their children forever. Go, say to them, return to your tents. But you stand here by me, and let me speak to you all the commands and the laws and the right rulings which you are to teach them, and they shall do them in the land which I am giving them to possess. And you shall guard to do as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you. Do not turn aside to the right or to the left. Walk in all the ways which Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, so that you live and it be well with you, and you shall prolong your days in the land which you possess. Amen. 29. Book 29. Proverbs. Interesting. I was going to do Proverbs 29. Sorry about that. Alright. Proverbs, it is. Proverbs 19. Better is the poor walking in his integrity than one of perverse lips who is a fool. Also desire without knowledge is not good, and he who hurries with his feet sins. The foolishness of a man perverts his way, and his heart is wroth against Yahweh. Wealth adds many friends, but the poor is separated from his friend. A false witness does not go unpunished, and he who breathes out lies does not escape. Many entreats the favor of the noble, and all are friends to him who gives gifts. All the brothers of the poor shall hate him. How much more shall his friend go far from him? He pursues promises, they are gone. He who gets heart loves his own life. He who guards understanding finds good. A false witness does not go unpunished, and he who breathes out lies perishes. Luxury is not fitting for a fool, much less for a servant to rule over princes. A man's discretion makes him patient, and his adorning is to pass over a transgression. The sovereign's wrath is like the roaring of a lion, but his delight is like dew on the grass. A foolish son is a calamity to his father, and a continuation and a contention and the contentions of a wife are a continual dripping. Houses and riches are the inheritance of fathers, but an understanding wife is from Yahweh. Laziness makes one fall into a deep sleep, and an idle being suffers hunger. He who guards the command guards his life. He who despises his ways dies. He who despises his ways, Yahweh's ways, dies. He who shows favor to the poor lends to Yahweh, and he repays his deed. Discipline your son because there is expectation, and do not set your being on his destruction. One of great wrath bears punishment. For if you rescue him, fancy English him, you only have to do it again. Listen to counsel and accept discipline so that you are wise in your later end. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the counsel of Yahweh that stands. What is desirable in a man is his loving commitment, and a poor man is better than a liar. The fear of Yahweh leads to life. The fear of Yahweh leads, fancy English, leads to life, and he remains satisfied. He is not visited by evil. A lazy one buries his hand in a dish and does not bring it back to his mouth. Strike a scoffer, and the simple is made wise, and reprove one who has understanding, and he discerns knowledge. He who plunders a father chases away his mother, is a son causing shame and bringing reproach. Seize, my son, to hear discipline, and you shall, fancy English, and you shall stray from the words of knowledge. A witness of Belial, Beliya apostrophe Al, the rapist family, scorns right ruling, and the mouth of the wrong ones devours wickedness. Judgments are in store for scoffers, and beatings for the backs of fools. Amen to that. Proverbs 13. A wise son accepts, fancy English, accepts his father's discipline, but a scoffer shall not listen to rebuke. From the fruit of the mouth a man eats the good, but the desire of the treacherous is for violence. He who watches over his mouth guards his being, but he who opens wide his lips comes to ruin. The being of the lazy one craves, but has not, while the being of the hard workers are enriched. A righteous one hates a lying word, but a wrong man is loathsome and comes to shame. Righteousness watches over him who is perfect in the way, but wrongness overthrows the sinner. There is one who makes himself rich, yet has, fancy English, has none at all, and one who makes himself poor, yet has great riches. The ransom of a man's life is his riches, but the poor does not hear rebuke. The light of the righteous rejoices, but the lamp of the wrong is put out. The pride comes by pride comes only strife, but wisdom is with those who take advice. Wealth from vanity diminishes, but he who gathers by hand increases. Expectancy drawn out makes the heart sick, but a longing come true is a tree of life. He who despises the word is destroyed, but he who fears the command is rewarded. The Torah of the wise is a foundation of life, turning one away from the snares of death. Good understanding gains favor, but the way of the treacherous is hard. Everyone with insight acts with knowledge, but a fool spreads folly. A messenger that is wrong falls into evil, but a trustworthy envoy is a healing poverty. But a trustworthy envoy is a healing. Poverty and shame are for him who ignores discipline. He who heeds reproof is esteemed. A desire accomplished is sweet to the being, but to turn away from evil is an abomination to fools. He who walks with the wise shall be wise, but the companion of fools suffers evil. Evil pursues sinners, but good is repaid to the righteous. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Much food is in the tillable ground of the poor, but lack of right ruling sweeps it away. He who spares his rod hates his son, but he who loves him seeks him with discipline. The righteous eats to the satisfying of his being, but the stomach of the wrong is lacking. Amen. Proverbs 11. A false scale is an abomination to Yahweh, but a perfect weight is his delight. Pride comes, then comes shame, but with the humble is wisdom. The integrity of the straight ones guides them, but the slipperiness of the treacherous destroys them. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. The righteousness of the perfect makes his way straight, but by his own wrongness the wrong one falls. The righteousness of the straight ones delivers them, but the treacherous are caught by greed. When a wrong man dies, expectancy perishes, but the ambition of the wicked shall be lost. The righteous is delivered from distress, and the wrong one takes his place. The defiled one destroys his neighbor with his mouth, but the righteous is delivered by knowledge. When the righteous prosper, the city rejoices, and when the wrong perish, there is shouting. But the blessing of the strength of the city is exalted, but by the mouth of the wrong it is overthrown. He who lacks heart despises his neighbor, but a man of understanding keeps silence. A slanderer is a revealer of secrets, but one with a trustworthy spirit conceals a matter. Without guidance the people fall, but in a great counselor there is safety. He who is a guarantor for a stranger suffers harm, but one who hates shakes hands in pledge is safe. But one who hates shaking hands in pledge is safe. A woman showing favor obtains esteem, but ruthless men obtain riches. A lovingly committed man is rewarding his being, but he who is cruel troubles his own flesh. The wrong one earns false wages, but the one sowing righteousness a true reward. Thus righteousness leads, fancy English, leads to life, and one pursuing evil to his own death. The perverse of heart are an abomination to Yahweh, but the perfect in the way are his delight. Hand to hand, the evil one does not go unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall escape. Like a ring of gold in a pig's snout is a beautiful woman who lacks good sense. The desire of righteous is only good. The expectancy of the wrong is wrath. There is one who scatters, yet increases more, and one who withholds more than is right. But it comes, fancy English, comes to poverty. The generous being is enriched, and he who waters is also watered himself. The people curse him who withholds grain, but blessing is on the head of him who sells it. He who earnestly seeks good seeks what is pleasing, but to him who seeks evil it comes to him. He who trusts in his riches falls, but the righteous flourish like a leaf. He who troubles his own house inherits wind, and the fool is servant to the wise of heart. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who is winning lives is wise. See the righteous in the earth shall be rewarded. How much more the wrong and the sinner? Amen to that. Proverbs 1. The Proverbs of Shlomo, Shelomoh, son of David, sovereign of Israel, for knowing wisdom and discipline, for understanding the words of understanding, for receiving the discipline of wisdom, righteousness, right ruling, and straightness, for giving insight to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. The wise one hears and increases learning, and the understanding one gets wise counsel. For understanding a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and discipline. My son, heed the discipline of your father, and do not forsake the Torah of your mother, for they are a fair wreath on your head and chains about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not give in. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them like let us swallow them alive like Sheol, which is place of the dead, and entirely like those going down to the pit. Let us find all precious goods. Let us fill our houses with spoil. Cast in your lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your foot from their path, for their feet run to evil, and they hurry to shed blood. For in vain the net is spread in the sight of any that possess a wing, but they lie in wait for their own blood. They ambush their own lives. Such are the ways of everyone greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its owners. Wisdom calls aloud outside. She raises her voice in the broad places. At the head of the noisy streets, she cries out at the openings of the gates. In the city she speaks her words. How long, you simple ones, would you love simplicity, and shall scoffers delight in their scoffing, and fools hate knowledge? Turn at my reproof. See, I pour out my spirit on you, and make my words known to you, because I called, and you refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no one inclined, and you spurned all my counsel, and would not yield to my reproof. Let me also laugh at your calamity, mock when your dread comes. When your dread comes like a storm, and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, let them then call on me, but I answer not. Let them seek me, but not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of Yahweh. They did not accept my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore let them eat the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own counsel. For the turning away of the simple kills them, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But whoever listens to me dwells safely, and is at ease from dread of evil. Hallelujah to that. All right, last one. Proverbs 2. Well, this is part 1. There's still a whole other section there. Proverbs 2. My son, if you accept my words and treasure up my commands with you, so that you make your ear attend to wisdom, incline your heart to understanding, for if you cry for discernment, lift up your voice for understanding. If you seek her as silver and search for her as hidden treasures, then you would understand the fear of Yahweh and find the knowledge of Elohim, for Yahweh gives wisdom. Out of his mouth come, fancy English, come knowledge and understanding, and he treasures up stability for the straight, a shield to those walking blamelessly, to watch over the paths of right ruling, and the way of his lovingly committed ones he guards. Then you would understand righteousness and right ruling and straightness, every good path, for wisdom would enter your heart, and knowledge be pleasant to your being. Discretion would guard you, understanding would watch over you to deliver you from the evil way, from the man who speaks perversities, those who leave the paths of straightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice to do evil. They delight in the perversities of evil, whose paths are crooked, and they are perverted in their ways, to deliver you from the strange woman, from the foreigner who flatters with her words, who forsakes the companion of her youth, and has forgotten the covenant of her Elohim, for her house has sunk down to death, and her paths to the dead. None going in to her does return, nor do they reach the paths of life. So walk in the way of goodness, and guard the paths of righteousness, for the straight shall dwell in the earth, and the perfect be left in it, but the wrong shall be cut off from the earth, and the treacherous ones plucked out of it. Hallelujah.